Okay, for the record, we're right beside the dead calf. It's time for all the bureaucrats and cops to go eat donuts, get drunk, get laid. We're going to put a bunch of videotapes up over the weekend. Now, everybody knows that I'm a whistleblower about money. Now, a long time ago, I blew the whistle with the U.S. Treasury Department back in January of 2002. I finally had meetings with the IRS after dogging them for so long. They wouldn't do anything, but they called me a mad bomber, tried everything they could do to cover up my matters, and try to put me in jail to shut me up. Well, I had to keep things in confidence and hope that they would do their job. When the bell tolled 6 months, I sued the miserable bastards. I filed the complaints on dates I could remember. I filed the first one on Canada Day, 2002, and the next one by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, July the 3rd, just in time for the American 4th. I then left the country, went to Canada, caught a plane from Toronto, went to Bermuda, went to a wedding, met some friends, asked some questions, flew back to Canada, and I sent by Campar hard copy of both my complaints, 02-01070 and 02-01113, that were filed in Norfolk Superior Court. I sent them to the CBC in Toronto, care of Sophia Harris, by Campar, and Paul Salucci, who was the U.S. Ambassador to Canada, and he was Lieutenant Governor when a lot of these mobsters that I have tapes of were prosecuted. I sent it to Paul Salucci because he spoke for the Secretary of the State, Colin Powell, and I was letting the feds know before I sent the sheriffs out in Massachusetts and had to print many documents I could ill afford to pay for and stop my brother-in-laws from throwing my wife and kids out of our beach house down in Cape Cod in August of 2002. Well, I sent it by Canpar. It was tracked, delivered, and signed for. So the Secretary of State, by way of Paul Salucci, knew the truth in July of 2002 in time for my birthday. I do things on days I can remember. My birthday is July 17th. They got it on July 16th. I returned to the United States. I stopped the fraudulent sale of my wife's beach house where her brothers had forged her signature on the purchase and sale agreement. This was 2002. As soon as I was back in Dodge, the Secret Service and everybody pounced on me and a friend, Dave Mullins, in August of 2002 after I sent the sheriffs out. The legal argument began then, and it continued on until 2003, March 18, 2003, I received 4 judgments by default. I wouldn't take the money. The war was about to start. They were covering it up. The next thing I know, because I bought shares in the Brookline Savings Bank, Secret Service came to my home after I was in court twice on April the 1st and tried to take me to Guantanamo Bay. 6 months later, there was a hearing in the U.S. Congress, November the 18th, November 19th, in which Senator Shelby and all his cohorts were covering up the SEC's quick settlement of Putnam Investments over supposedly market timing and a whistle blown by a whistleblower named Scanlon. However, they all knew about me, as was affirmed by Elliot Spitzer and everything, and my matters were far more egregious than mere matters of whistleblowing about market timing, of which no one has been prosecuted. They decided that market timing isn't technically illegal. However, covering up for bank fraud, tax fraud, securities fraud, and murder certainly is. Anyway, the hearings were November the 18th and the 20th. Anyone can see, on November the 19th, Ann McClellan admitted something happened between Wayne Easter and I after I was mentioned in Congress as that man from Massachusetts who calls everybody names. For the record, I am the guy that explained blowjobs to Senator Elizabeth Dole. That is a fact. The documents are on the internet. That said, Ann McClellan had to admit it because this guy had admitted it. The Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security. He acknowledged a letter from me to his office November 21st, the day after Elliot Spitzer testified and thanked me for the information. They gave me a complaint number. Anyone can see it. This is long before most Canadians ever heard of a RRR. Furthermore, I gave my material to his lawyers in New York, CCR, Center for Constitutional Rights. They got it. He answered. Later, after she sends me this letter, they have the RRR inquiry. Everybody knows I'm the perfect witness for Mr. RRR. Nobody does nothing. Today, it's announced that now they're willing to investigate Mr. RRR. But they forgot this complaint number. Mr. Skinner, the man that replaced Clark Kent Irwin, has the same name as a fellow who was involved with the New York Stock Exchange. Judge Webster was involved with the New York Stock Exchange. Last time I checked, he was one of the directors of the Department of Homeland Security. Does anybody understand what I'm trying to say? All that said, this document, that complaint number, is enough. Now, they talk about Privacy Act and they're not going to tell me anything. This is 5 goddamn years ago. Here's where Adrian Clarkson tells me on September the 11th, 2004, hey, Mama, you listening too? I must say you're better looking than Adrian Clarkson. Anyway, Adrian Clarkson, after I ran for Parliament, and just before I was falsely imprisoned, I received this by fax 3 days before I was falsely imprisoned. She says she mailed it September 11th. I don't think our post office is that slow. But anyway, she tells me I should take it to court. She feels comfortable in saying that, as she is obviously well aware I'm about to be falsely imprisoned. This is after I get out of jail the following year. Gomery asks everybody, is it not within the mandate of public service to call the